Well, Larry, it's great to see you again. I always enjoy our conversations, and face-to-face can't be beat, right?
Absolutely.
There's been so much going on. It's almost crazy. I feel like I say that all the time, but we really are in unprecedented times right now. I was just looking at True Pundit earlier, and there are so many articles on there. We now have the Inspector General saying that Stroke and Page may have destroyed some of the text evidence. I had someone telling me that there's a raft of emails that they want released that could potentially include threats from FBI agents against Trump. Obviously, we've got Rosenstein talking about how he's not going to be extorted. He seems to want to squarely keep the business of the extorting in the hands of the Department of Justice and not turn it over to other people to pressure him. What would you say is going to be the impetus for ending this Mueller investigation?
Taking Mueller out legally. We actually have a case, Jason, you can find it at freedomwatchusa.org. In addition to wanting to be named special counsel, because I could take him out relatively quickly, what he has done is he has been continuously leaking grand jury information for the last year and a half, him and his staff. That's a crime. We know that just a few days ago, all these questions that they want to ask the president, the special counsel, have leaked. Now, even if that didn't come from Mueller for the last year and a half, so many leaks have, that I have filed a Freedom of Information Act lawsuit to get the communications with the media from Mueller's office.
How long does that type of suit usually take?
Well, I've asked the judge to accelerate it. It's Judge Sullivan. He was nominated and confirmed as a Democrat, but he has more integrity than most of the Democrats on that court, in fact, all of the other ones. And he's the one that accelerated the case that I brought back at Judicial Watch against the Cheney Energy Task Force. So we'll see what he does. But if we can get that information disclosed and we can confirm that grand jury information has been leaked, Mueller's toast. He's gone. That's a crime.
Yeah.
And I would like to be special counsel. You can go to our website and sign up for that on our petition. I'll frankly have him indicted and convicted and thrown in prison if he's been doing that, if I'm special counsel.
I would love to see that happen, and I certainly signed the petition. How many signatures do you have on there, Larry?
We have close to 23,000 right now.
Wow,
yeah,
that's great.
And growing. And I just hope it's not all for naught. We need to tell the president people should be emailing the White House, texting the White House, faxing the White House, urging them to appoint me special counsel, because frankly, you can see the president, as I've suggested, is now firing his lawyers. I mean, correctly so. I mean, he got rid of John Dowd. He now got rid of Ty Cobb. He brought in Rudy Giuliani. I like Giuliani, but frankly, the few things I've seen in the last few days, I'm not sure that he knows what he's doing. Ridiculous statements saying, well, the president might sit down for an interview.
Yeah, why would he do that?
I think it's his ego that now he's in charge, so
but
he's going to pontificate. The president should never sit down for an interview. It's a perjury trap. And even Dershowitz, the liberal Harvard law professor, this morning said, well, maybe he can answer written questions. Well, that's even worse, because you're going to be held to a much higher standard. The lawyers are going to write the answers to those questions, and if that varies with what somebody else testified to in front of the grand jury, you're going to be indicted.
Right.
So he simply cannot sit down for an interview. That should be made clear, and Giuliani should stop messing around with that. He may be trying to play good cop, bad cop, but he's got to be careful. I'm glad that Rudy is on the case. At least he has the expertise, because the rest of them, frankly, didn't. Particularly Jay Sekulow. He's not a criminal defense lawyer.
No, huh? The thing you just said about the statements, that's very interesting to me, because it seems like there's a real limited playbook that these guys, they've got not such a deep tool chest that they're diving into, but they seem to really want to get people entrapped in making statements, sort of, push them in the direction like they did with Flynn, and then charge them with that making of a false statement. Same thing happened to Scott Bennett.
Right. Well, make no mistake about it. Mueller is out to destroy the president. He's the product of the Republican and the Democrat establishments. You can see even Trey Gowdy likes Mueller. Grassley, the head of the Judiciary Committee in the Senate,
Trey Gowdy likes Mueller.
Likes Mueller. They're all protecting him. It's absurd. Lindsey Graham, John McCain, all the establishment that wants to bring Trump down because they want to run their establishment candidate in 2020 as the Republican Party, so they can initiate the money train, the gravy train, the power, and everything else. They resent Trump because he's broken up their little cabal there in Washington, D.C. So they have to destroy him, and Mueller's the vehicle to do it, and the stooge is Rod Rosenstein, the Deputy Attorney General, who has free reign to do what he wants. He rubber stamps everything Mueller wants. Sessions, we now know why he's inert, because we found out that, in fact, Mueller wants to question the president about his interactions with Sessions over alleged Russian collusion, over obstruction of justice and firing Comey. So it's what I've been saying all along. Sessions won't do anything because he's worried he's going to be indicted by Mueller or, possibly even impeached as Attorney General. So it's a bad situation, and the only answer is, and this is why I do want to be appointed special counsel, but this other lawsuit, we need support on that. We need financial support from the public for all these cases, is that if we can show that Mueller has been releasing grand jury information to the media, he's gone. It's over. It's over.
And it's not any impropriety on the president's part.
No.
I do want to direct people to freedomwatchusa.org. That is the website where you'll find the petition. And as Larry points out, it is important that we support, from a financial standpoint, Freedom Watch, because there really aren't too many lawyers out here who are standing up for our rights and doing the types of FOIA lawsuits and pointing out some of these really just egregious violations. Larry, you were part of the Justice Department at the earlier years of your career. Is this, or is it not, just a unprecedented? I mean, this photograph of Rod Rosenstein is almost like a comic book photo. I keep coming back to it periodically because it seems like someone could not have possibly created a crazier photo of Rosenstein. And today we have him talking about how he's not going to be extorted. But yet this guy has engaged in so much improper, the conflicts of interest are just everywhere.
Right. Well, he was, of course, instrumental in using the Christopher Steele dossier and getting a warrant, rubber stamping that. He rubber stamped what Mueller wanted in the raid on Michael Cohen's office, the president's lawyer. He's a career person. He's an Obama holdover. He should never have been put in that job. Sessions should never have recommended him to President Trump. Sessions has got his own problems. He should be gone too, frankly. But Rosenstein, that smiling picture, tells you everything about Washington because they're all a member of a club. It's the National Football League. It's the National Corrupt Politicians League. You got the American Conference and the National Conference, the Democrats and the Republicans. And he knows that he's protected, like Hillary Clinton. She's not quaking in her boots either.
That's
right
really
now. That's
weird.
why I need to be special counsel. I'll make her quake in her boots and put her away. But they all know that they'll protect each other. And I'll tell you a story. When, at the end of my time at Judicial Watch, before I founded Freedom Watch, when I left to run for the U.S. Senate, when George W. Bush came in office, I went to John Ashcroft, the Attorney General. I said, why don't we settle some of these cases? The Filegate case, the Travelgate case,
some of the cases against the Clintons.
Yeah. Well, it was deaf ears. And George W. Bush is Attorney General, a conservative, a social conservative like Ashcroft, who I know. I haven't called him at home. No, because the overriding modus operandi in Washington is, I'll scratch your back when you're in power, and when I'm in power, you'll scratch mine, and we'll protect each other because we're all part of this club. And you can see that club on Fox News every night. Same people every night, same people who are there in Washington pontificating on the same subjects, and they're all part of that club. It's just simply an effort to boost ratings. It's an effort to titillate the American people, the conservative media. But it's sites like yours, Jason, that really tell the full truth. Fox only goes so far, okay? And I like Fox. I watch it. Thank God we have Fox. But we need this other media to get the truth out. And I want to have media that demands action, that just isn't talking about what's going on. Yeah. That's what I see on Fox mostly.
Well, thank you for saying that, Larry. I think we really are engaging with the audience in a way that traditional television programs cannot. And also by having sponsorship for Crowdsource the Truth come from the viewers rather than some big corporate interest or some billionaire who owns it, as is the case with Washington Post, New York Times, CNN, Fox, whatever. It changes the way the news is delivered. There's no one person who can say, hey, we're going to terminate your $5 million contract if you talk about this or whatever.
Right.
So it really feels like a lot of this, in terms of the whole Mueller investigation, it feels like that's coming to a head. I mean, they're banging on it so hard while simultaneously ignoring all these things that the Clintons have done, that Loretta Lynch was doing, Eric Holder, Barack Obama. There's talk that Obama had a Gmail account, Renegade. What is going to happen?
Yeah, he was communicating on Hillary Clinton's private email server with national security information right out of the White House.
That
he knew
is so
that.
crazy.
He knew that. That's been confirmed. So there's all that stuff out there, and if you're looking at Russian collusion, you have to ask yourself the question, why isn't Mueller looking at what Hillary did and the Democrats did in financing that phony Christopher Steele dossier,
right,
and a bunch of other things? No, the entire legal system is a cesspool, Jason. It's corrupt. I know it. I knew it when I started Judicial Watch years ago. It's gotten much worse, to answer your question. I was an alumnus of the Justice Department. I saw stuff there I didn't like. That's why I left. But what I saw then is nothing compared to what it is today. Now it's the Department of Injustice. It's the Department of Corruption.
Yeah.
And it's scary because what we have here is like a German Stasi operation over at the FBI or a KGB.
But just infinitely more sophisticated.
Mass surveillance on the American people. They can destroy anybody they want at any time. And Sessions knows that too, because they got wiretaps on him at the Trump Tower. So that's why he's worthless, and he needs to go.
Well, let's talk a little bit about some of the people around Trump that have been systematically brought down. Of course, the first domino to fall was Michael Flynn. And he's financially ruined, even if it turns out now that they throw the case out against him. The man's had to sell his house. He's been dragged through the mud. Michael Cohen, what's going to happen to him?
God knows. I mean, he's the whipping boy for Trump. I don't know what he did and what he didn't do. But to go in there and to do a paramilitary raid, a la the Bundys, we've talked about that, a miniature Bundy paramilitary raid, is outrageous. And to not give any warning and to bust down doors and everything else, it sends a message. It's not just that they gathered attorney-client information, in my view, illegally against the Fourth Amendment, but it's the message it sends to the American people generally: don't challenge us, or we will destroy you. That's the message they were trying to send to Klayman, Bundy, and his sons, too. Do not ever challenge what we do, or we will destroy you. And if we don't kill you, we'll destroy you another way.
Right. It's the same message that's been sent to Kim.com, even though he's in another country. He's in New Zealand. They went and raided his place. I don't know that much about his case, but I do see similarities. Michael Cohen, they're accusing him of having paid this $130,000 to Stormy Daniels, right? And they're saying that that's an illegal campaign contribution. That's really all we've heard, that's his transgression, right?
Apparently. Yeah,
well,
I mean, we don't know what he did with his real estate empire and this or that, you know.
Scott Bennett says...
I'll tell you something, somebody who is in potential jeopardy is Hannity. I mean, because I don't know why Hannity came out and said he's not my lawyer. He gave up his attorney-client privilege. The leftist media is working on Hannity. I don't think Hannity did anything wrong, but you can believe that Mueller would like to take Hannity out. And when they want to find a crime, they'll find a crime.
Scott Bennett told me that he feels that Michael Cohen was targeted because Scott Bennett was in close communication with Mr. Cohen's office. Cohen had seen the Shell Game report, as had Flynn. And this is an explosive report about, you know, all of this type of corruption that it would seem everybody is trying to protect. But when we see the honest individuals, patriots with integrity, who stand up and try to do the right thing, they get immediately stomped down. Scott Bennett was thrown in jail for 4 years.
Well, they do. I've been threatened in the past, you know. Years ago with the Clintons, me and my family and everything else. They try to scare you, but it's kind of like walking down the street. If the dog thinks you're going to be, that he's going to bite you, he will bite you. You can't be afraid. You're not afraid.
Not afraid.
Our colleagues are not afraid. Laura Loomer's not afraid. You can't be afraid. Our founding fathers were not afraid. So, but the powers are much greater today. And I've always said that if King George III had had an NSA, the Founding Fathers would have never made it to Philadelphia. They would have been picked up, arrested, and executed before they got there. That's what we're up against. I believe, Jason, and I'm trying to head it off. I'm trying to do what I can. That's why Mueller needs to be taken legally down now. But I believe that we're headed into a very potential violent civil war. And if this president, if there are articles of impeachment that are voted out and you see these leftist groups like Antifa in the streets, God forbid you're going to see right-wing militias react to that. I don't want to see that happen. I think it could turn into a bloodbath. I really do. And because people are fed up with the justice system, there is no equal justice in this country. And there are people out there that will react in self-defense to the left, to Antifa.
That actually would not be entirely unprecedented. I'm sure you recall in 1992 or 3, after the Rodney King incident, there were riots all over the country, people beating each other up in the streets, smashing bricks over their heads and everything. So the notion of people getting to that point of being fed up and actually clashing is not as far-fetched as someone might imagine. And the government's been totally out of control.
That's right. I mean, there's this desperation out there.
Right.
And, I get up every morning. I'm peaceful. I have said I'm an admirer of Gandhi and of Martin Luther King. Peaceful, civil disobedience, Thoreau. Going way back. But there are people out there that are at the brink right now.
Yeah.
And unless this justice system shapes up, this country's going to be shipping out quickly.
I feel like there's a danger of that. It's like kind of happening before our eyes. Larry, what can people do aside from just going to freedomwatchusa.org and signing the petition or making a financial payment to support the effort? How could we really get this petition in front of the president? I mean, I would seriously, like next week, I think you need to become the new special counsel. How can we help that happen?
I would urge everybody to send emails, texts, letters, faxes to the White House. Get the president's attention, because he's not gotten good advice up to now. That's why he's had to turn over his lawyers. I've been saying that from day one. And if nothing else, sit down with me and talk to me, because I have some ideas on what he can be doing. For instance, he should be ordering the Justice Department. He's the head of it. He's the head of the executive branch. Release all these documents with regard to Hillary Clinton, with regard to
Why not do that?
GPS, with regard to Uranium One, with regard to the Clinton Foundation. He can declassify everything, get it all out into the public domain, and that'll create a groundswell for a special counsel. Rod Rosenstein will run for the exits. Sessions will go back to Alabama and do whatever he does there. I don't know. I don't think the guy does much of anything other than illegal immigration. He's doing some good stuff there, but that's it. But we need to get it all out there on the table. And Congress isn't going to do anything. We know that. When in the last 30 years have they held anybody accountable? It's a dog and pony show. It's the way you get on Fox News every night and raise money and get reelected. I'm sorry. I've become very cynical about that. And certainly Devin Nunes of the House Intelligence Committee, he's done some good things, but he hasn't gone far enough. There's mass surveillance against hundreds of millions of Americans, not just Trump. Right. What are you doing about that? It was oversight of that. That goes on to this day. So this is the kind of thing that the country is potentially sitting on the precipice of a major explosion, because people don't feel like they are in control of their own country anymore. And the one person who gives people hope, our president, who wants to make America great again, who doesn't care about the establishment, who frankly loves the fight. You got to love the fight. I love the fight. You love the fight. That's who we are. It's in our DNA. They're trying to destroy him. And if he's destroyed, the next president is going to be far worse than even Obama and Clinton.
It's hard to imagine.
Yeah, we're going to have somebody like, well, who knows?
Could be Michelle Obama, and then you got Barack right back in there.
Yeah, it could be Cory Booker or somebody like that. I mean, what a hateful guy he is.
I'm not that familiar with him, but why do you suppose, what's a logical reason why President Trump has not just said, release these documents?
I think the poor guy's getting hit from all sides. That's why I want to sit down with him. That's why sign our petition. I do send it over to the White House. freedomwatchusa.org, but also inundate the White House and correspondents so they have to respond. I wrote a letter to the president several weeks ago saying I'd like to sit down with you, help you in any way I can in my private capacity. I hadn't heard back. I doubt the letter ever got to him. It's
Right.
The poor guy has so much going on, and his whole family, they're at risk too. You know, his son-in-law, his daughter, his press secretary is disparaged and vilified.
Oh, at that correspondence dinner, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it was just disgraceful.
I don't think that comedian was very funny, and it was just, I think they were talking about not doing the White House Correspondents' Dinner anymore.
No, they'll do it. I mean, this is the Washington Club, and I got to tell you, I've gone 3 times.
To the dinner?
Yeah, to the dinner. I went last year. Clinton was in office. I was invited by Insight Magazine, my very good friend, may he rest in peace, Paul Rodriguez, who was the editor, and everybody was trying to put their arms around me, you know, on the Clinton team. Even Gregory Craig, you know, your friend.
Really? Yeah.
And I said, get away from me, essentially. I said, I don't want to be a member of your club. But I was curious as to what went on.
Right.
And it's just a giant love fest of each other. It's the ultimate hubris. It's the ultimate conceit that we're special. And they think that they're Hollywood. You know, Jason, they say that Washington is Hollywood for ugly people.
Right.
And they're ugly not just physically, they're ugly in terms of the way things are done. It's a town, frankly, that disgusts me anymore. When I go there, there's this evil cloud hanging over it. It needs to be legally taken apart and put back together again. And that's what Trump's trying to do.
Yeah. Larry, I apologize. We've got a little technical problem here. Give me just 1 second. We can keep talking. I'm sorry about that. You know, it's whenever I come to these remote locations, there's always all kinds of things going on, and I just hit a button that caused something unhappy, but we're going to get it resolved right here.
Yeah, maybe the NSA, CIA, or FBI are interfering. You
No,
know.
that was me just making a stupid error here, but we're going to get it back right now. Okay, so let's...
They can hear our audio right now?
Yes, our audio is still being heard, and people should go to freedomwatchusa.org and sign the petition. You know, I was going to comment on the fantastic artwork that you have around the office and try and show some of that, but we'll just focus on trying to get the cameras back on.
Well, yeah, it's courtroom artwork of my various cases over the years. Behind me is the NSA case where we got 2 injunctions against the NSA and the Obama administration for illegal mass surveillance.
Wow.
A few years ago.
So what did those injunctions do? Did they do anything to stop the illegal mass surveillance?
Well, I think it was a great legal victory, but that was about it, Jason, because the intelligence agencies continued on to conduct mass illegal surveillance. They're doing it to this day. And we know, of course, what they did to the Trump Tower, the illegal wiretaps and everything else. I myself, I've had my cell phone changed 3 times in the last few years.
Because
I have
they've
clients
been
who've
tapping
had computers hacked. So, you know, the injunctions that we got resulted in a new law called the USA Freedom Act, but people like James Clapper, former Director of National Intelligence, John Brennan, head of the CIA under Obama, they don't care about any law, they do what they want to do. And Comey and Mueller, they did a lot of illegal surveillance too when they were running the FBI.
Let's talk about James Comey for a moment. What do you see happening to him? Will he be prosecuted?
Not unless I'm special counsel. No, he won't be.
So you just...
No. Let me tell you also why. Because it's the same reason. You remember when George W. Bush became president, he kept George Tenet, the CIA director under Clinton, on as CIA director?
Yes.
What I believe that was all about is that, you know, George Bush's dad, W's dad, H.W. Bush, was also director of the CIA.
Yeah.
And he was concerned that all kinds of, you know what, S.H., you know what,
unfavorable,
was going to start flying out of files about his dad and the Bush family.
I see.
Well, Comey has so much dirt, and so does Mueller, as directors of the FBI. That's why they're scared to take these people on, as well as the intelligence agencies, because, you know, nobody lives a perfect life, and there are always things that people don't want out there in the public domain.
Right.
And they can do the same thing to anybody that challenges them that Mueller's trying to do to the president.
It's interesting, Larry. You know, that we're seeing, like I said before, there's a real limited playbook here, and I feel like we're seeing a lot of the things that are happening to the president and the president's lawyers and things like that. Similar techniques are being used against people like Laura Loomer, people like myself. Just a total absence of any, you know, justice, any people just saying whatever they want, doing whatever they want, generating false evidence, sending this evidence around in the form of a Steele dossier, or now there's someone out there who has published a book and put it on Amazon accusing me of creating a dirty bomb hoax at the port of Charleston in South Carolina. Now, I believe this individual was involved in creating the hoax.
Yeah.
If someone
There's
sells
no
a
truth
book
anymore. Look at the Me Too movement, this radical feminist movement that you just make an accusation against men. Some are, you know, valid with Harvey Weinstein and stuff.
Right.
But you destroy people like Judge Roy Moore in Alabama. He just filed a lawsuit the other day fighting back. Good for him. But, you know, that's the point. We have to fight back. We can't roll over. We can't be afraid. We can't be politically correct. We can't worry about being smeared or harmed, as our founding fathers were not worried about losing their fortune and their lives. So we're at that point, Jason, and I know that, you know, we're running out of time here.
Yeah.
Love to come back. Have to break it at 6. But, you know, what you do is so important, and you know, we've become friends.
Yes.
And because I admire you, and I admire the fact that you're fearless.
Thank you, Larry.
So,
And I feel the same about you. You've done incredible work with first Judicial Watch and now with Freedom Watch. And people definitely should be going to freedomwatchusa.org. We need a special counsel who's got the courage to do what needs to be done and who isn't beholden to these crazy swamp creatures there in Washington, D.C. While we have just a few minutes, is there anything
Yeah,
you'd
let me
like
add
to
one other
close
thing.
with?
Now, if I'm not special counsel, but even if I am, in addition to that, we've suggested we reinvigorate, we resurrect citizens' grand juries. Is that citizens have the right, like in the Old West, to impanel their own grand juries. Justice Scalia found that in the case United States versus Williams in 1992. He wrote the majority opinion. Grand jury doesn't belong to any of the 3 branches of government. We have the ability to impanel grand juries, to indict, to convict, to have citizens' trials, and even to do citizens' arrests. Now, I'm not claiming that we should do that now. We should get a judge. We can find one judge, I have one in mind, that will enforce any convictions. And we do it just the way the Justice Department handles prosecutions and the way the courts do. The American people have that right. And we are re-impaneling the citizens' grand jury as we speak, because I'm going to be pursuing that avenue as well. But if I'm special counsel, I'll have even more powers. I'll have the power of the Justice Department behind me.
Is there any way that we could assemble a demonstration to, I feel like we need to put some more energy behind this movement because it's not getting the president's attention.
Let's explore that. I've thought of that. I have had rallies in front of the White House. You know, sometimes it's expensive to get to Washington, D.C. I did it in late November. It was cold.
Yeah.
It was called Reclaim America years ago. But we need to do something like that, and I think that's an excellent idea as well, is that if we can just flood Washington with people that are demanding equal justice,
Yeah.
and be right in front of the Justice Department,
Right.
Peacefully, chanting,
Absolutely.
I think that's a really good idea. And that's what I'm talking about. I admire Gandhi, I admire Martin Luther King, I admire people who believed in civil disobedience.
Right.
And I think that's the next step, as well as citizens' grand juries and having me appointed
Right.
special counsel.
Absolutely, and I'm 100% behind that. Larry Klayman is always a great guest, freedomwatchusa.org. People can also follow you, Larry, on Twitter, and you are there at Larry E. Klayman. And I apologize that my attempt to show some of the very impressive, ooh, wait a minute, we're not quite getting that. Let me get the Twitter page there. Yeah, my attempt to show the very impressive artwork in the office here unfortunately resulted in us losing some of our cameras. But people can definitely follow you on Twitter, Larry E. Klayman, and also find out all kinds of information about what you're up to here on freedomwatch.org. Larry, thanks again for joining
You're
me
welcome,
today.
Jason.
I look forward to
God
speaking
bless.
to you again.
Godspeed.
You too. Thanks very much.